everybody, and welcome once again to the No Name Music Cast. My name's Tim, and this is
Joy.
And before we get going with this week's topic, I just want to let everybody know that we now have a Facebook page. We've moved into the information superhighway or something like that.
You would never guess Tim works in IT by any of these conversations.
No, on the worldwide interwebs or whatever they're called these days. But we have our Facebook page. A lot of people have already liked it, and thank you. But if you haven't, head over to Facebook, and it's facebook.com/no-name-music-cast. That's facebook.com No Name Music Cast. Give us a like, and we'll be posting each episode on there. And we'll also be posting some links to go along with the episodes and any other fun stuff that we think about. But anyway, there we go. So anyway, this week, it's my topic. I get to pick. And I once again challenged Joy. So I challenged Joy to go through her most diverse playlist or collection of MP3s or whatever she had on her computer or phone or whatever, and literally hit shuffle 10 times and see what 10 songs came out. Now, I've done exactly the same, and I think the way that we're probably going to do it is we will alternate. But Joy will kick off with the first one from the list. So I'm just curious to know what you have in this playlist, MP3 list, iTunes list, wherever you pulled it from.
Okay, so this came from my most liked songs on Spotify. I try to like every song that I really care for, so then it makes a really nice playlist for me when I'm too lazy to figure out what I want to listen to. Mm-hmm. And the first song is not that crazy. It's the Smashing Pumpkins, 1979.
Okay.
Which is a good song.
Yeah, maybe I didn't put you down as a Smashing Pumpkins fan.
A few of their songs. It's not like high on my list, but I probably will surprise you because there are a few random things in this. But yeah, I mean, that is one of their more popular songs too, though. That one plays on the radio, I still think, to this day. Fairly often.
Is that taken from Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, that double album that they came out with?
Yeah, it is.
I think that was pretty much for them their breakthrough.
Yeah,
album.
I think that is in 1979. It's probably one of their most famous songs, I would imagine. If I had to guess.
Were they celebrating my 5th birthday?
Yes, that's exactly what they were doing, Tim. How did you know?
Well, thank you, Billy Corgan. I appreciate that.
All right, Tim. What's on yours? What was your 10th?
So
first,
I don't have any of these newfangled Spotifys or any of that kind of business going on. I have my old-fangled iTunes library, which is meticulously curated with all the tags and all the album artwork, and I've lovingly took me about 2 years to do. So I have my library. So I use that, and I hit shuffle 10 times. And the first one I came up with was REM's Shiny Happy People.
Which is ironic, because that was in the last episode. Because then we have a conversation that they refuse to play it now.
Yeah, I think there's something about REM when they... I mean, I don't know if they're still a touring thing. I'm not entirely sure. Even
I have no idea, honestly.
I don't know. But I remember reading in some guitar magazine and Peter Buck, the guitar player, says, we don't play that anymore. Yeah, we're serious artists. And
apparently they did hate the song. That's what I'm finding out.
Okay.
Katie Pearson from B-52 sang backup on it.
In fact, I know. I think she's in the video, in fact.
Is she? I don't remember what the video looks like, truthfully. I just know the song because it's catchy. He said it's a really fruity kind of bubblegum song in an interview, and he said he was a bit embarrassed that this is Michael Stipe, is a bit embarrassed it became a big hit, but it's an important song because it shows a different side of us.
Well, there you go.
The irony is that's actually my favorite song by R.E.M. Of course, I might be a little bit more bubblegum pop than some others. I don't know.
Exactly. I don't know. I think it's a good song. I said literally, I turned the computer on, fired up my iTunes, hit play, and then hit for the next song on random, and that was the first one that came up.
Says midway into this song, it switches to waltz time, so 3/4. Mm-hmm. REM's guitarist Peter Buck had the idea to do this. He explained why in a 1991 interview with Guitar School. The song is so relentlessly upbeat, there was nowhere you could go with the bridge. We tried it a few ways, and then I suggested the 3/4. They said that's kind of fruity, Peter, but we're going to go with it.
Okay.
That's how they wrote the song. There you go, Tim.
Well, there we are. Not only are we exploring my iTunes library, we're getting REM facts.
Well, I wanted to look it up, so now we know. It's written in 3/4, and they hated it.
Well, and I sort of like it. And plus, it's 2 steps removed from Love Shack, so what are you going to do?
That is true. And now that I read that about that being her voice, it makes complete sense because it sounds just like her, but I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, I think I knew it was the singer from the B-50 because I remember seeing the video, as I said before, and I remember seeing her in it. So,
All right, number 2.
From your playlist, what do you have, Joy?
The Beach Boys, God Only Knows.
That is a good track.
It's an amazing track, and that's probably it's on Pet Sounds, right?
Yes.
Which is known as being one of the greatest albums of all time.
Yeah, it's. But Pet Sounds is put right up there. They say that was the album that influenced Beatles' Sgt. Pepper because of the way that the harmonies were built, the production, the way the instruments were treated, a lot of stuff. They said a lot of those production values influenced the Beatles into Sgt. Pepper. However, I've heard Sgt. Pepper a million times, or maybe several hundred times in my lifetime. And in fact, downstairs I have the original vinyl pressing of Sgt. Pepper that my mother bought the day it came out. Literally the day it came out in the 60s, she went to a shop and bought it. And it's been, like, she's always had it. And then when I was last in England, she gave it to me and I have it downstairs.
Probably worth a lot of money.
It's worth about $60 because I looked it up.
Oh, I felt it was going to be more. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, but anyhow, I've heard that album so many times growing up. That was an album that was played in the house. You know, I've heard it so many times. And then after reading an article about how they influenced the Beatles and George Martin and from a production and value standpoint and all that kind of stuff, I listened to Pet Sounds. And yes, Pet Sounds has got some great songs on it. But I think as far as iconic pieces of music, Sgt. Pepper is a 10 and Pet Sounds is like a 2. I mean, I'm not taking away. Wrong. Yeah, I'm not taking away from the Beach Boys and the songs that's on there because it's good stuff.
No, I agree with you on that. It's just known as being probably their top album, I would say, from a beach. And I'm just going to say, I'm not really a big Beach Boys fan. They're not one of my top artists. I just happen to really like that song.
And I think now, if you go and see the Beach Boys, I think it's Mike Love. There's like one Beach Boy.
So I bought my mother and father tickets to see the Beach Boys 2 or 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. And there was like 1.5 left. I don't know. And it was still, each ticket was still $90. And I think they saw one original member. I will say my parents do kind of like beach music. And so this was literally set up to be like a beach music kind of concert on a, so there was like a whole ambiance to it you were paying for as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it wasn't a cheap ticket by any means for only one remaining member.
and did you hear that the Beach Boys sold the entire franchise to like some event company?
I had no idea about that. So are they still getting royalties off their own music or anything, or just their concerts are sold?
Well, I think the idea is they've sold the entire Beach Boys franchise to, I forget which company it was, but it was like a AEG Live or some event type promotion company. They not only did they get the publishing rights for all the songs, they got the rights to the name. And I think the idea being is that they think it's going to be like these ABBA tribute bands where you can have like 10 Beach Boys going out and it's all different people. I think that is the thought behind it.
But yeah, no, that makes sense. I just was curious. I mean, with one member left, I guess it's not really that big a deal.
No, and I'd imagine the remaining Beach Boy. I mean, he's an older gentleman, I'm sure. So.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Number
so
3?
the next pick is mine. And the magic iTunes machine came up with Bruce Springsteen. And this song is from Born in the USA, the classic Bruce Springsteen album, Born in the USA. It's not a song I'm super familiar with, though I have heard it a few times, called Darlington County.
I'm not even sure I've ever heard that.
It's like the second or third track on Born in the USA. It's an album track. As I said, it's not one of his hits. It doesn't have a young Courtney Cox in the video or anything like that.
So we're not going to hear it on the radio anytime soon, is what I'm getting.
No. But what's your thoughts on Bruce Springsteen?
Oh, I love Bruce Springsteen. I think he's probably one of my top favorites. I mean, I kind of rank him up there with, like, I really like Rod Stewart, and I like that kind of sound, so he kind of ranks up there with me. Maybe even Sting by the Police. That kind of genre is where I associate it with, and depending on my mood, it's one of my favorite things to listen to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I picked up where I got this in my library. I picked up the CD in a thrift shop for 50 cents, and it was like the remastered, expanded edition or something like that.
Well, look at you getting all fancy on us, Tim.
Exactly, and spending 50 cents in the Christiansburg thrift shop, getting me some Bruce Springsteen. The boss is in the house, no less.
Yay. Oh, no. Speaking of Bruce Springsteen, on our Facebook page for the podcast last night, I made a post. I was looking through a list of one-hit wonders, and Bruce Springsteen was on there. And I said, how is this a thing? Yeah, a couple of Fruit Jam people responded back to me because I was like, what? And then I think it was Sarah who was like, I mean, it's in the name. It's the boss. So that's why he's so predominant in my mind, because I was literally looking through it and it was listing him as a one-hit wonder. And I was like, what?
Well, do you know what's funny about these one-hit wonders? And this is something that struck me after I moved here. You know the band a-ha, Take On Me?
Yeah.
Now, in the United States, they are considered a one-hit wonder with Take On Me.
Okay.
And in fact, I remember one time when I was here on a trip, and I think I've had VH1 on or something like that in a hotel room, and it was like top 25 one-hit wonders or something, and that was like number 2 was a-ha's Take On Me, and I'm like, hang on a minute, they've had lots of hits. So maybe... I mean, that's certainly from a UK perspective. Now, I wonder, Bruce Springsteen, the icon that Bruce Springsteen is in this country, I wonder if that list was a UK list or an Australian list or a New Zealand list.
That is a good point. It was just a playlist that I happened to click in, maybe on YouTube, that said One Hit Wonders, because, like when I think of One Hit Wonders, I think of, like, OMC, How Bizarre from the 90s, that kind of thing. Like, that, you don't know of any other song they did. So, no, but yeah...
And in fact, I think I saw the post on the Free Jam Facebook page. Someone said Chesney Hawkes is the one and only.
Oh, I don't even know who that is.
He was a one-hit wonder type of character, but I think it was more of a UK hit. I don't even think it charted here.
If it did, I'm not familiar with it, but yeah, there was a few people who commented because I was like, I guess that's a good point, though. Maybe if somebody in Africa was making the list, that could completely be a one-hit wonder. Hadn't even thought about that.
Have you ever heard of the track Owen Paul's My Favourite Waste of Time?
Not off the top of my head.
Again, that was like another UK one-hit wonder track. The interesting fact for that is that the guitar player on that track... Richard, I can't remember the guy's last name, but when I joined a band in England, at the very beginning I couldn't do all the gigs, and the guitarist was friends of theirs, so the guy who played on that one-hit wonder used to fill in for me when I couldn't do it.
Well, Tim, I had no idea you had so many connections.
Look at me being decked out by a one-hit wonder guitar player, man.
Next you're going to bring up the whole was it Mungo Jerry that we were talking about? Somebody knew somebody.
Well, you know, I played with a guy who played bass in ABBA. I think I probably said that.
I think so. Yeah. You've told me that one before. See, guys, Tim's got all the connections. We just didn't know.
There you go, see. Well, I tell you what, Joy, it's now your turn. So what have you got on your next one? Okay,
this is going to take a turn. And I don't even know if I want to say this. It's... Boom, 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 I Want You in My Room by the Vengaboys.
Oh.
The Vengaboys, or however you say it. Do you know that song, Tim?
I think it's Vengaboys.
It's like V-N-J. GA, but they're not American. And I'm pretty sure that song was popular in Europe too.
Yeah,
and they had
I remember that. I seem to remember someone I know having the entire album of that, and I am familiar with that song. And if you, as we've said before, there's no boundaries in music. You like what you like. You don't have to justify it.
I like that song, but it's just funny to say boom, boom, boom. And all I can remember is they're riding a bus, aren't they, in the video with like a crazy with like different flowers on the bus or something? Is that this one?
I think it could be. I will put the video in the Facebook page when we
it's going to be something completely different. And I'm going to be like, I don't know what video I was talking about. That'll be my luck. But yeah, that's the one. All right, Tim, what was yours?
Well, as I hit the next shuffle button, I got Joan Baez, Diamonds and Rust.
I don't even know if I know what that is.
Well, Joan Baez, she's like a 70s folk singer.
Oh, I think you've talked about her before, actually.
Yeah, and I think if Diamonds and Rust is not necessarily... Or maybe it is like the one people that know that's the song that she's known for, I don't know. But it's very downbeat, very minor key... singer type thing like that.
She's on stage with long hair and no shoes and just an acoustic guitar.
That kind of idea. Yeah, I have a good authority that no footwear was worn during the recording session of Diamonds and Rust.
Of course, duh, Tim. How else would it be? How else would it work? I mean, that's how it's got to go. But yeah, I'm going to have to go look that up now, Tim, I will go look it up and give you guys some information how I think or feel about it on the page after we're done.
Okay.
Yeah, you said Diamonds and Rust?
Diamonds and Rust, that's the one, yes.
That's like the most, like, I can picture this person just by the name of that song. and what you're picturing,
sort of hit 70s type, hippie type lady.
Yeah.
Like you say, she's not wearing shoes. She's probably never worn shoes.
Her hair's very long.
You would be correct.
Pre-Sheryl Crow.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
All right.
What you got next?
Hard Luck Woman by... Hard Luck Woman by Kiss.
That's a pretty good song. I
absolutely love that song.
Yeah, and thing is with Kiss, I mean, you can get wrapped up in the whole Kiss image. Well, it's not even image. It's the Kiss persona, if you will. But there are some great songs with Kiss.
Well, in that song, a lot of people think that Rod Stewart or somebody is singing it. Apparently, there's like a whole thing where people don't associate it with Kiss. They don't think it's them. And so a lot of people can, but it's actually one of my favorite Kiss songs. And it always kind of sounds like, it kind of has that same sound as like Time in a Bottle or something, that kind of Jim Croce sound. But yeah, that's one of my favorite Kiss songs. And I will say that it's from, let's see, what album is it from? I think it's Rock and Roll Over. It's like their 1976 album, which I can't tell you one other song that's on that album. I don't know if it had any big hits, but that's personally my favorite song on it.
Yeah. I mean, I've certainly sort of growing up, and even when I was getting into guitar, I wasn't really super aware of Kiss. Kiss wasn't really a thing. I think, there are Kiss fans in England, but I think Kiss is more of a US phenomenon to some extent. But in the later years, I've listened to a lot more Kiss than I have before. And like I said, there are some really good songs there.
Wasn't the drum... Well, I think that one thing before I go forward is it's called the hair factor or something. So Glee did a whole episode on it, and there's like a thing in music called the hair factor. So Hair, the musical in the 80s, where they did the...
Yes.
This is the dawn. Yeah, so the idea is that you're so distracted by the hair and like kind of like the what's going on around it, you don't realize there's no substance. in a way. And so I think Kiss kind of played into that. But a lot of 80s bands went for the big hair and the, like, let's talk our poisons and all that kind of stuff, you know. But that's part of it is the spectacle that is Kiss. I don't even know. I mean, they're fine musicians. I wouldn't say they're the greatest musicians in the world, but they're still very good. They're very popular. Paul Stanley has a very interesting voice. Peter Criss looks like a cat, which is a good thing. But yeah, no, I think that's probably why they just became a spectacle in America for that way. And then, I mean, they've also played into that spectacle. There's literally that Kiss casket you can buy, and the drummer from Pantera wasn't he buried in one?
It was a guitar player, Dimebag Darrell. He was buried in a Kiss casket. That's correct.
I mean, if that's not playing into your own stereotype, I don't know what is, Tim.
Well, the thing that's unique about Kiss is that, for one, they've always said that they're a marketing machine. They've never shied away from the fact that they were in it for the money. They've never shied away from that. Because a lot of musicians say, oh, you know, we're a serious musician. We do it for us, and we don't even do it for the fans. But no, Kiss is like, no, we did this to make a lot of money and get rich, and that's why we do it. And that's why you can buy a Kiss casket and Kiss cola and Kiss coffee and all that kind of stuff.
I meant to say Gene Simmons earlier when it's about voice, but Peter Criss looks like a cat. But anyway, yeah, no, and that's true. Gene Simmons has recently had some interesting times where he's kind of lost his mind, I think, a little bit here recently.
Yeah, I suppose if you're, I don't know, maybe some people get older and they weren't maybe not necessarily on the straight and narrow anyway, and he's probably got some money behind him, obviously, and he doesn't need to mind his P's and Q's. I really don't know. But one thing that's another thing that's interesting about Kiss, apparently when they were starting out, before they were even a thing, they would hear bands, like they'd hear the Beatles, they'd hear the Who, they'd hear the Rolling Stones, they'd hear Eric Clapton. And they hadn't actually seen them at this point, because they probably came from a small town of America somewhere. So when they finally went to see the Who and they went to see the Rolling Stones and things like that, they were expecting these larger-than-life cartoon characters on stage, because in their minds, listening to this great music, that's what they thought they were going to see. So they go to this Rolling Stones concert, and it's 5 guys on stage smoking a cigarette wearing jeans. And it's like, what's this? I was expecting this thing, this spectacle, this band, because it sounds so good. So when they put Kiss together, that's what influenced them. They wanted to be the larger-than-life cartoon character, and that's where that whole persona comes from.
But they're not the only ones who've done it. I mean, even Freddie Mercury has kind of alluded to that's what he wanted. It's not the same. I wouldn't say that he went as far as the spectacle, but, he wanted to be that larger-than-life persona. So that's not shocking.
True, but Freddie Mercury is wearing like a skin-tight leotard, but like Kiss were wearing 12-inch heels and fireworks. And
they took it a little bit further. Yeah. Just like a tiny bit. I mean, there was only a 12-minute fireworks show, Tim. God. Versus someone spinning a microphone while he sings. But, it did take a lot of talent to walk in those boots.
Exactly.
Exactly. And if they ever quit singing, they might be able to get a job as a stripper. You never know, Tim. It could go either way.
All options are open to them, and they're all about the money. What can I say?
All right.
All right. Okay. So the next one I came up on my iTunes Shuffle was by John Mayall. Are you familiar with John Mayall?
No.
And it's a track called Fly Tomorrow, which is not even really a track I'm super familiar with. But what's interesting about John Mayall, he was a blues singer, harmonica player in the 60s, and he had a band called the Blues Breakers. And
I have heard of the Blues Breakers. I've never heard of him specifically.
Yeah, John Mayall's Blues Breakers was a blues band that was around in England in the 60s, and like all these great guitar players came through the Blues Breakers. Peter Green of Fleetwood Mac fame. The amazing Jeff Beck came through the Blues Breakers. But the most famous person that came through John Mayall's Blues Breakers was Mr. Eric Clapton.
Never heard of him. Never gonna make it. That guy's never gonna make it.
No.
But so was the Blues Breakers like a stage band, and they shuffled through different people, or were they just the people who were providing? They just went through many different guitarists, or
I think they just went through various different guitarists. I think like all the hotshot guitar players of the day did their stint in the Blues Breakers and they went off. And I think that I could be wrong, but I think the timeline was as Eric Clapton was first, then he left, and then Jeff Beck came in, and Jeff Beck played in the Blues Breakers for a while, and then he left, and then Peter Green, I believe, played in the Blues Breakers. I could be messing the timeline up, but I have a feeling that Eric Clapton was first, because there is that album, the bill they call the Beano album, which is Eric Clapton with John Mayall's Blues Breakers, and he's holding a comic book open, and it's a UK comic called the Beano. And
there's a UK comic called the Beano. Good to know.
With Dennis the Menace.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, our UK listeners will have heard of that. But anyhow, there is that album is a very pivotal album in Eric Clapton's career. So, I mean, some people will say that his playing never had the fire after that album. Like, he has so much passion and fire in his playing at that point. People say he never got to that ever again.
That's an interesting point. I mean, I've always just associated him as being a really good guitar player, but I'm also not a guitarist, so maybe I'm not making as many judgments on his guitar playing.
Yeah, when you're a guitar player, there's certain, like, especially if you read a lot of guitar magazines when you're starting out, there's lots of things they talk about over and over, and the John Mayall Blues Breakers Beano album is one that you hear all the time.
So speaking of guitar magazines, I'm going to take this on a funny little loop here. I used to get Guitar World, even though I didn't play the guitar, but I thought it was cool. And I liked looking at the instruments, and I did play some instruments and was just interested in music in general. So when me and my twin sister decided one day we were going to start our band. We weren't a good band by any stretch of the imagination. I told you guys I was a terrible drummer. How we figured out our name, and it's the worst name for a band ever, was we opened up the Guitar World magazine, put it on a random page, and I stuck my finger in one place, and my twin sister, stuck her finger in the other place, and our band's name was, I don't even want to say, Control Issues. Like the most teenager angsty thing we could have come up with. It was literally my band was called Control Issues.
Do you know what's funny about your technique, your band naming technique?
What's that?
Did you know that's how the Commodores came up with their name?
No, but that's not shocking.
Apparently the Commodores, when they were looking for a name, they flicked through a dictionary and they stuck their finger in a page and said, whatever it lands at, that's what we're called. And it came up with Commodores. Well,
that makes sense, though, because it is kind of a random name to have for a band, the Commodores, but I never really gave it any thought.
But yeah, apparently, but look at you, Control Issues. Did you get that major label deal that you was going after? Did you go on tour?
Yeah, totally. That's why I'm here now. Let's just say there was 3 members of the band. There was me, my twin sister. I played drums. And sometimes I played keyboard, and we didn't have, like, dedicated members to instruments. That's the first thing that was probably our issue. Brandy did play guitar, and then she would help on the keyboard, too. And then we had a friend who was going to be our lead singer, but we discovered she couldn't carry a tune in a bucket. Sorry, friend. I don't think you listened, but she couldn't. So then the whole band fell apart. I think we had 3 practices total. Maybe.
So what you're saying is that Ian Husbands isn't going to be playing your music on Lunchtime Live next week?
No, he is not. Let's just say that. I can be very proud of you guys, and you guys are awesome, but you're doing something you don't want to hear from me. I can play the piano, and like I said, I took voice lessons, but you don't want me near a guitar or a drum set, or I really just was never destined to be a rock star, unfortunately.
Well, there we are. But look at you now. You're a professional broadcaster, broadcasting to the world.
Well, I was destined with the radio voice, so there we go.
There we are. Well, fantastic. Well, I tell you what, with your radio voice, tell me what your next pick is.
Well, my next pick is kind of ironic. It's London Calling, The Clash.
Okay, well that's a good that's a good song. I mean, is that just, are you a fan of The Clash in general, or is that just like one that calls out to you?
No, I love The Clash, actually. It's one of my favorite bands. So, but I mean, there's London Calling, there's Brand New Cadillac. Obviously, you could go for days, but they're one of my favorite bands. I really like their sound. I know they've got, everybody just associates with that kind of Ramones push or whatever. But I really like their overall feel for their music. I don't know how to explain it. It's just one of those bands that I got attracted to. So I listen to The Clash fairly often. Do you listen to The Clash, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably more of a greatest hits of The Clash fan. I have never really delved deep into their catalogue. A friend of mine, John Blackburn, who now lives in New Zealand, played bass for Joe Strummer for a period of time. And when I went to see The Who at Wembley Arena, probably in the early 2000s, Joe Strummer and his band were opening for The Who, and my friend John Blackburn was playing bass for Joe Strummer. So,
well, didn't they only have like 3 albums though? Truthfully, didn't they?
I think so. I mean, I've got like a anthology of The Clash on the computer, but as with a lot of this stuff, they pull B-sides and outtakes and all that kind of.
Well,
stuff.
And I mean, if you look at Joe Strummer and Mike Jones, they were totally playing the, Rebel Without a Cause kind of thing up for their music, but I actually just like their sound. Like, a lot of people talk about they don't really pay attention to the lyrics of, like, say, Pink Floyd or something. It's like their sound, that kind of overall experience. That's what I like about The Clash. So, there you go.
Okay, well, there you go. I've learned something, Joy. I didn't put you down as a Clash fan, but there we are.
I'll continue to surprise you.
There we are. All right, well, the next one I have is Thin Lizzy, Ireland's finest, Thin Lizzy, and with a song Southbound.
Southbound. I've heard that song, yes.
Yeah, and I didn't make a note of the album it came from. It wasn't from Live and Dangerous, I don't think, but I think it was a live version of Southbound.
That's the one that's like talking about a ghost town, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Town or something.
It's not the one that's talking about a jailbreak that's in the Tesco or something.
Well, the jailbreak, where could it possibly be, Tim? Where could it have been?
Well, I thought it might be in the bakers or the.
But no, I have to be honest with you. Thin Lizzy's a band. You were just talking about The Clash. I'm probably a greatest hits person when it comes to Thin Lizzy. I don't even know, where did you say they were from?
They're from Ireland.
I don't even know if I knew that off the top of my head.
Yeah, Phil Lynott. It certainly was Irish. I think the bulk of the band was Irish.
Huh. Well, now I learned something, Tim.
There we are. And I would say if you want to get into Thin Lizzy, listen to the live album Live and Dangerous, because it's one of those live albums that's probably not all completely live, really, but it's a live album. And it has all the songs on that you'd be familiar with. And the cool thing is, there's like a track at the end of it, and it has Huey Lewis from Huey Lewis and the News playing harmonica on it. Which
is a favorite. I love Huey Lewis and the News.
Oh, Huey Lewis. You can't go wrong with Huey Lewis.
He's hip to be square.
He is indeed. Though he spends a lot of time going back in time.
He does. That's true. Now I'm going to be singing that in my head for the next 6 weeks. And he knows about the news. He knows about all the news.
Yeah, basically he looks at all the news all the time. He's like Elvis. He has 3 TVs in his front room and he has 3 news channels running. No, he doesn't really.
Well, I was going to say, did Elvis have that going? Was that a thing?
Joy, have you ever been to Graceland?
Yeah.
You know when you go in the house and then you go around the house and you go down like into the basement before you get to the jungle room, there's Elvis's like TV watching room. Oh,
you are right about that. I hadn't even thought about it, but did you know that I thought you specifically meant that he was into the news?
No, I meant that Elvis just had 3 TV screens.
Okay. I was like, they told you that he was into the news? I don't remember that. I was sitting there trying to remember that, like, what?
Now, apparently, the reason Elvis had 3 TVs in his lounge area, it was either I think it was Johnny Carson or the president or someone big figure of the day. He was known for having multiple TVs in the TV viewing room, and I think they think it was like either Johnny Carson or President Nixon or someone like that had like 2 TVs. So Elvis, being Elvis, wanted to have 3 TVs.
Of course, he did. He was I was just watching a documentary last night, and they were talking about, paranormal stuff, and Elvis came up, of course, and the different sightings of Elvis. And there's one that it really does, like, it's a picture where it's in his own, like, I think it's in Graceland, but if you look at it, I'm going to find a link and put it up, but yeah, it looked just like Elvis, and it was supposedly dated after he died, so if you believe he's alive, that picture would maybe really confirm that. I don't believe he's alive, but if you already believe that, I see why this picture would sell you on it.
Yeah, I've heard all those conspiracy theories about Elvis being alive and all that. I don't know. What would
be the point, though? Like, in all seriousness, what would be the point of him, just to start fresh?
I think so. I think he was very, very unhappy and very unhealthy at the end of his life.
Yeah.
I think he'd probably had enough of being Elvis Presley, the celebrity superstar. And
My father did security for him once.
Who did?
Towards the end. My dad did security for him towards the end. I think it was the Hawaii concert. Don't quote me on it.
So your dad has met Elvis?
I don't know that he ever met him in person, but yeah, he did security for him, and then I think he did something for Aerosmith at one point too. He was working for a vendor that they put people out, and work concert venues and stuff. And he did one for Elvis, and he did one for Aerosmith, and there was somebody else, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
That's fantastic. Maybe we need to get your dad as a guest on the show to talk about his work with Elvis.
Well, I think his work was, hey, you, don't go near the stage, and pushing him away. Dad's a very big guy.
What you're saying is your dad quite literally was taking care of business.
Yes. Yes, he was.
Fantastic.
And now that'll be in my head now, too. Thanks, Tim. It'll be a mashup. But yeah, Dad did some type of security for it.
Good deal. All right. Well, I think yours is the next pick from your shuffle.
Okay, so it's the song Gloria, but it's not the original. It is the Glee version.
Okay.
Starring your favorite Adam Lambert.
Well,
I know you actually like Adam Lambert. I know. I'm just giving you a hard time.
I'd like to go on record in podcast format about my thoughts on Adam Lambert. I think Adam Lambert is a great singer. I think Adam Lambert is a great personality on stage. I think he's got great stage presence. He's got a great look. He probably writes great songs, so I don't really know any of his solo stuff. But, I've got no problem with him at all. Good luck to him. However, I don't necessarily want a slot-in, flamboyant man plonked in my favourite rock band of all time just because he can sing like up high. And the problem with Adam Lambert is that he has a Glee voice. He has a Broadway voice. He has that very pure, very high, very powerful voice that you get for a Broadway singer, like a stage singer, that kind of thing. Freddie Mercury could do that, but also he could be a gruff rock and roll singer too. And I think when you put Adam Lambert in Queen, yes, he can sing all those songs because he has the range and he has the stage presence and he has the whole package. However, it just doesn't sound right. He's too high and too screechy, and he can't sing the rock songs convincingly as a rock singer. No,
and that makes complete sense. And Tim has utterly defended Adam Lambert. I'm just giving him a hard time because we've discussed it in depth, and we've even talked about, we were talking in that one episode how we're scared of all the concerts we missed out on because of COVID. Really brought that back to our mind. And Tim even said I would go see him even now just because, Brian May's still up there and that kind of thing, and it's Queen. And Adam Lambert is talented, but he has a very Broadway sound. He can fill a room very well with his voice, and he could sing amazingly, but it's also just your ear has come accustomed to hearing the music a certain way. It's your favorite artist, and it's nothing against him. It's just not the same.
No, and if I was Adam Lambert and then Queen, and I could sing like Adam Lambert, and then Queen said to me, "Hey, do you want to come and tour the world and earn millions of dollars and front our iconic band?" I'd be, yes, I'll do that.
So there is an Adam Lambert song. It's called Trespassing. It's one of his solo artist songs, and he did it in a way that's actually kind of cool. So we've all heard Another One Bites the Dust. We know that rhythm. We know it all very well, right? Mm-hmm. So Trespassing is, and I'm sure he got permission to do this. He works with Queen on the daily. Is the rhythm, it's got pieces of the rhythm from Another One Bites the Dust. And it's a really cool song. And he does it really well. And when he performs live as his solo career, he actually does a mashup of both songs together.
Okay.
It'll lead into another one, and then he'll go back and forth, and the audience goes crazy because Queen, because that's like his. So, and that's pretty cool. If you never heard it, it is pretty cool. I'll give him that one. But I like Adam Lambert, and I loved him on Glee. And you're right, though. And I mean, his voice worked perfectly for Glee. He was only a guest star. He wasn't one of the, main roles. Him and Demi Lovato were both guest stars in some of the later seasons. But his voice matched perfectly. And that's what the scene is they're singing Gloria. There's a famous Starlight Cafe bar type thing in New York where people who want to go on Broadway, their waitress is there. And every so often they do like a show. Like
it's Ellen Stardust Diner.
Yes, that's what it is. Stardust. I said Starlight.
Yeah, I've been there. It's right in Times Square. It shares the same kitchen as the what's that place next door where Les Paul used to play? That's going to bug me.
That I can't answer.
The Iridium Jazz Club. So the Iridium Jazz Club is where Les Paul used to play every week. I saw Les Paul, the guy who invented the electric guitar and multi-track recording. And Ellen Stardust Diner is right next door to it. And Ellen Stardust Diner and the Iridium share the same kitchen. But anyway, I've been in Ellen Stardust Diner, and yes, all the wait staff will sing to you.
Mm-hmm. And so that was. I don't think they were. I think they may have called it Starlight instead of Stardust. They couldn't use, I don't know if they used the exact name, but that's it. They're wearing the little red outfits, and then every so often. So members of the Glee, when they went to college in New York, they were working there. And then Adam Lambert was somehow involved in that. But anyway, they're competing and they're getting frustrated about something. And Lea Michele, Naya Riviera, which recently you might have seen. Naya Riviera is the one who passed away recently from the boat accident. They were competing, and they were kind of using Gloria as like a battle song, like back and forth, because it goes really high and it's kind of aggressive, and he comes in and sings it. And to be honest, he was better than both of them. No. Just saying, it was a really good song for his voice. And then they were in a band. Like, they tried to come up with a little band, and Adam Lambert played in their band and in Glee for a little bit. And Demi Lovato was also in that whole. Somehow she was weaved into. I think she was supposed to be the girlfriend of Naya Riviera, and she was working at the cafe, and it was a whole thing. But yeah, that's where that song comes from, and that's one of my favorite Glee songs.
Well, there you go. Fantastic. Well, I will, in a complete juxtaposition change. My next song I have here is WASP, The Real Me.
I know that song. It's not one that I listen to all the time.
Well, The Real Me is a Who cover. It's from Quadrophenia, The Real Me. But WASP, as in Blackie Lawless, the hard rock band from the 80s, is then famously covering WASP's The Real Me.
Huh. Well, I don't think I knew it was a cover, but I've heard it before. But once again, The Who is not... I mean, I like The Who, but they're not one of my top bands either. They're okay. But they're not one that I go out of my way to listen to. And as if you listened to the last episode, you know I have a real problem with them going for miles and miles and miles. I still get angry when I hear that song.
Well, I will say, much like Thin Lizzy, if you want a sort of introduction into the Who, the good stuff, there's Who's Next, which is probably the greatest rock album of all time, and the Who's Live at Leeds. Now, there's several versions that are out there. There's the expanded, and there's this version, and there's something remastered version, whatever. But just the standard issue, The Who Live at Leeds, probably is the greatest rock live album of all time.
Well, I will give it a listen, Tim. You've motivated me. It's not that I don't like them. They're just not one that I've gravitated towards.
Sure, exactly. It's not something that's as some people would say, in your wheelhouse.
My wheelhouse is telling you the entire episode of Glee that Adam Lambert was
on. my wheelhouse is knowing that Pete Townsend was using an SG Special with P90s and a high Watt 100 head when he played that gig. That's my wheelhouse.
It takes all kinds.
There you are, see. So what's your next pick?
Okay, this one... I can't. Okay, so I know we have been through this, and I know we have said there are no guilty pleasures, and no, before anyone makes a comment, it's not Nickelback. That will never be found on my playlist. But, okay, so Paris Hilton had a short-lived music career. Did you know that, Tim?
I did know that she had an album out. I have a feeling that when I was watching David Letterman's show all the time, I think she featured as a musical guest. I think.
So she has a song called "Stars Are Blind."
Okay.
Probably the only one that she released, and I am proud of myself to say I actually liked it. It's not great, like she's not some amazing musician or anything, but it was catchy and I liked it.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, that is all you need to know about the world of music. If you like it, that's all you need. I must be said, I'm not familiar with Miss Hilton's musical output, and I probably couldn't tell you what equipment the band were using when they recorded it like I can with rock albums, but...
Well,
okay.
Tim, there probably wasn't an actual band. It was probably in a studio, and it was a backtrack if I was thinking of what I know with this song. But you know, she's like supposedly a DJ now, and she goes and DJs all over the world.
Yeah, I mean, maybe... I don't know if we have enough time for me to get into this celebrity DJ idea. So, admittedly, I've never DJ'd a club, like a nightclub. Mm-hmm. But I've DJ'd parties, I've DJ'd bars around here, I've DJ'd stuff in England when I've gone out with cover bands. And to some degree, I feel there's really no skill to it. Because it's very obvious. You can go to any place like this and you'll see the 10, 15 odd songs that people are going to like. And to some degree, it's almost irrelevant what order you string them in.
So I think that is true. And I think there's a difference between someone who is just playing tunes at a bar mitzvah versus an actual person who makes mashups and does a really good job at them.
No, absolutely. And I don't see... I don't know Paris Hilton's skill set in this, but I don't see her as somebody who is beat matching, who is, scratching one track into the next track, all that kind of stuff. I'm not talking about a DJ who's effectively a producer. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about somebody who goes to a club and it has however many thousand people in there, and they go in with their, probably these days, MP3 files, and they're playing one song to build the energy of the room up.
So, from what I know about Paris Hilton, and I've never seen her DJ, is she goes to like the really big electric kind of EDM sound things. Mm-hmm. And does like something like that. I mean, she has her little turntable, quote unquote, but I don't know that she's using it. I think it's just a prop. Mm-hmm. And she's wearing headphones, but I've seen it. She goes to all these different electric music type concert things, and supposedly that's what her day job is now. Now, I could be completely wrong, but I would imagine you're probably right in the sense that she's more there, I think, for the fun of the party and just playing whatever song she finds. I doubt she's doing mashups. And we've never talked about this on this podcast, but I am a huge mashup fan. Mm-hmm. Tim knows that it's one of my dreams is to be really good at doing mashups. I'm not good at it, but I want to be. It's harder than people think. And really good mashups are some of my favorite things.
I tell you one I would recommend to you that is really good that I discovered recently. It's on YouTube, so listeners, you can find this. It's a mashup between the Bee Gees' You Could Be Dancing and Deep Purple's Smoke on the Water, and it's called You Should Be Smoking. And you probably don't think that it would work, but it really, really works.
I mean, no, I could hear how with the Deep Purple, you've got almost like kind of like a deep, like a bassy kind of like deep sound, whereas You Should Be Dead, how you could layer that on top of it at the right moments and it would sound really cool. I've heard quite a few of them. One of my favorites, and I don't think they have a page anymore. I think their page might have got taken down from the YouTube copyright people out there. But there was a guy, his name was Robin, and it was Skateris. And he did some of the best mashups I've ever heard, and he would do multiples, and he would do 30 songs in one, and it'd be like one track leading into the next, but he did it so well. My favorite one was called One Way or Another. It was Blondie's One Way or Another. It had Take On Me in there and a few other songs. There's an Avril Lavigne song mixed in there. But I'll have to find the link. But that was probably one of the best. Because sometimes when they put a lot of songs together, it's almost too much. Mm-hmm. But he did it so well. And I want to say he was an American. That's why I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name. But he was very, if you guys find him, if you see him, if you know where he's at, let me know. Because I'd love to find him again.
He's probably out there somewhere getting it done. I don't know.
Maybe he's with Paris Hilton in Dubai, standing up on stage. I don't know.
Exactly. That's probably where they are. Well, I have the next one for you from my iTunes Shuffle, which is an all-time classic. Rolling Stones' Sympathy for the Devil.
That is an all-time classic. And what I find very interesting about the Rolling Stones, and maybe it's just me, but their song lyrics are almost surprising. Like, if you look at them on paper, some of their song lyrics shock me. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, you know, you can hear, let me be your beast of burden. But when you actually look at it on paper, I'm always like, whoa, that's what they're actually singing about?
Yeah, I think Mick Jagger writes some very interesting words. I mean, Sympathy for the Devil has the word troubadour in it. I mean, how often does that word turn up in, say, like a Kiss song?
Yeah, I just, and maybe that's why they became, I mean, let's say Mick Jagger is an icon in himself, and he's Mick Jagger. Even, you know, he's known for his dancing and showmanship, his putting on a stage, but like, on paper, their music's just very interesting to me, like, structurally wise, and just the lyrics always seem to surprise me. And like you said, I've never heard any of that in a Kiss song, for sure.
No, and the thing, especially with the Rolling Stones, yes, they are the world's greatest rock and roll band. How they're spoken of, but you know they've encompassed a lot of other genres. You know they've got involved they started off playing blues songs.
I said, didn't they have like a blues
doing some
section?
sort of some disco type tracks in the 70s. You know they've encompassed a lot of different genres and brought the world of rock and roll to a lot of different types of music.
Well, and I mean, I could agree with that. Did you ever, was it the Rolling Stones whenever they were, Woodstock? They flew in. Did the Rolling Stones fly into Woodstock and something happened and they basically like ran away?
It was. I don't think it was Woodstock. Are you talking about Altamont Speedway, where
maybe that's what it was.
They had the Hells Angels for security?
Yeah. That's what it was. And actually, I think Woodstock had the Hells Angels too. But yeah, that's what it was. They basically like ran away, didn't they? They never got to play, and they jumped back on their plane and took off.
I think they played Altamont. I don't know whether they cut the set short, but So I know at least one person got killed at Altamont.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was, and maybe that's what it was. Maybe they cut it short, but I was fairly certain it was. There's a story about the Rolling Stones where they showed up, attempted to play, and then basically just jumped on their plane and took back off.
Well, I've done that in Hillsville, at a bar there, where I went there with a band that I was in at the time, and we turned up and they weren't ready for us, and they wouldn't clear the area out, and the person who's running at the band at the time said, "Forget it then," and we got back in the truck and drove off. So, me and the Rolling Stones are at one, really, you know.
See, really? No, Tim, that makes sense. And if you've ever been to Hillsville, that also makes sense. I grew up in Grayson County, so I was right over, throw a rock and I'm there. So I can understand how that could happen there. Sorry if you live in Hillsville. It's nothing personal. All right.
What you got, Joy?
Judas Priest, you've got another thing coming.
Okay. Again, Judas Priest for me is a bit like Kiss. It's not one of those bands that growing up in my formative years I really had much relationship with. However, as the years roll on, I like me a bit of Breaking the Law. They do a good cover of that not Rolling Stones, Fleetwood Mac song Green Manalishi, which is cool.
Yes.
And another thing that I didn't realise until I rewatched it many years late after the fact is that Judas Priest plays at Live Aid.
I did know that, yeah. I've watched that on YouTube. It's actually pretty cool. I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan of them either, but I like a few of their songs, and that one happens to be one. And I will say that they're probably one of the ones we could have talked about in their attempts at rhyming, maybe not always being that great. Because I'm fairly certain that You Got Everything Coming's like, I'm taking flight, I said. I'll never get enough. Stand tall. I'm young and kind of proud. I'm on top as long as the music's loud.
Yeah, so. I mean, again, it's metal, man. It's not. It's not written. It doesn't have the word troubadour in it. You know what I mean?
Just bang your head, Joy, and move on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Don't overthink
wear your
it.
leather jacket, bang your head, and just enjoy it.
Which I love quite right, too. That's probably one of the... I'm not a big metal person, but that's probably the top kind of metals. I know some people might not classify them that way, but it's probably the top kind of that genre that I listen to.
Well, that's some good stuff. Well, moving from your metal, I'm moving to Gordon Lightfoot and the track Sundown.
I do know that song, and that's very random, Tim.
Yeah, very. I mean, maybe in the same kind of idea as Joan Baez. It's a little bit. Sundown's a little bit more upbeat.
Yeah. Well, isn't like the beginning? Isn't it about a satin dress or something?
Something like
lyrics
that.
to the song or something, like I saw her in a satin dress, and isn't there a girl in the video, I think, wearing a satin dress? It's like a green dress, or maybe that's the album cover. I've definitely seen it before.
Yeah, it's probably an album cover because I don't know whether Gordon Lightfoot, whether music pop videos were being made at that point. I think if that's probably early 70s, I would imagine. I don't think pop videos were necessarily so much of a thing back then.
Or it could be because I'm pretty sure the first line says something. I could see her lying back in the satin dress. I'm imagining someone in a satin dress, and I associate it with that song. And so I made that whole thing up. But that's what I hear when I... But yeah, that's a very... that was a random choice, Tim. I would have never... that's not one that I go out of my way to listen to, but I have heard.
Well, there we are. We can thank the random factor logarithm in iTunes for coming up with that one.
And Tim's very good at labeling every song very meticulously, so we know they're accurate.
Absolutely, 100%.
All right. So, mine is Walk of Life, Dire Straits.
Oh, fantastic. From Brothers in Arms, no less.
Yes. And I really like Dire Straits, but I think Walk of Life, because I am the one who likes the happy-go-lucky sound, is one of my favorite songs from them. Because, I mean, who can't hear it? You do the walk on and not be happy, truthfully. How can you not be happy hearing that?
Exactly. And the other thing, I think we may have covered this in a previous episode, but the album Brothers in Arms was basically made for the what was new at the time, the CD format.
Oh, yeah, I think you might have mentioned it a little bit. It was one of the first ones, maybe one of the first episodes you said that. Now, I cannot stand, there is a Dire Straits song that I hate, and here's why. Sultan's Swing. And the reason I hate Sultan's Swing is because I had a friend who was obsessed with it, and he was learning to play the guitar. And guess what he played on his guitar every night on repeat until he learned it was Sultan's Swing. It was an old roommate of mine, and he was obsessed with it. I had to hear it. I can see the video in my head. It just plays in my brain constantly.
Was your friend Guitar George who knew all the chords, but he didn't know how to make it cry or sing?
A little bit. He's gotten better. He's actually a pretty good guitarist, but this was towards, he would get all these kicks where he wanted to learn one song, and one song specifically, and it was just hours of the same song on repeat. And he's big into AC/DC, which you can imagine. It's the same AC/DC 5 songs we hear on the radio every time. Mm-hmm. And then Sultan's Swing, though. And he wanted to listen to it on he would want to hear it, so he would play it really loud to hear it. And then he would spend 2 hours on the guitar trying to play it. And then he'd want to hear it again. And it was just on repeat. He did get it eventually. I'll give him that. But I can't hear that song ever again.
So for you, it's a, for like with me, it's Sweet Child of Mine. For you, it's Sultans of Swing. Yes.
And they said that he did... I got the reference about you can check out the Guitar George, even though I ignored it. It's the lyric of the song, everybody. Everyone comes for me. I'm just saying that's why I can't hear it anymore.
You're completely burnt out of it.
Yes, and it is a cool song. Don't get me wrong. It's just I never want to hear it again.
You've completely had your fill of that.
Yes, and it's kind of a random one because it's not like a song you hear very much. Just
No,
He was
I mean,
obsessed
I
with it.
don't. I mean, I assume they probably play it on the radio stations that play the same 12 songs in a loop. But I don't think it's up there with Freebird and all the other stuff that we spoke in a previous episode about.
Yes, but it still makes my eye twitch. All right, Tim, what do you got?
Well, this one's a bit random, and this is one that you wouldn't have in your collection. Is a live recording of the Whiskey River Band live from Pulaski Moose Lodge doing the country song "Smoke."
Of course.
Which was
Where were you at?
Which was a new country song which came out 10 years ago, 5 years ago, or something like that. But I went through a period of time where I was in that band for a number of years, and I went through a period of time of recording all the gigs off the mixing desk, off the board. And then I'd get them home, and then I would edit them up, and I'd put them all into tracks and put them into the library. So I have hundreds and hundreds of live recordings of that era of me doing it, which was about a year. So they routinely come up on shuffle. So if I want to remember what it was like playing in the Pulaski Moose Lodge with a band I used to be in a year or two ago, I can have that at any time.
I like how the name of the song is just Smoke.
Yeah, and in fact, that's quite apt because I think it's changed now. But certainly when I was playing in that band and we were playing all these moose lodges around here, and just to explain moose lodges for our friends in England, moose lodges are very similar to British Legion clubs. It's pretty much the same principle, really. And then and certainly in this area where we live, there are not a lot of bars or pubs. That's not so much of a thing. And if people want to go out and drink and watch bands and be merry, typically you have to go to somewhere like a Moose Lodge or an American Legion or something like that. But there's a number of these Moose Lodges around here, and a lot of the bands who play around here play these Moose Lodges. But one problem that when I was playing in that circuit a few years ago, all of them allow smoking. So the fact that I pulled out a song that the actual song is called Smoke, it almost reminds me of that, where you get home from playing at the Moose Lodge, every piece of equipment you bring in the house stinks of cigarettes. All your clothes smell of cigarettes, your hair smells of cigarettes. It's just, and I'm sure even if you're a smoker, you must smell of cigarettes to some degree. But when you're in a room that's not terribly big, it's not like you're playing a stadium, and there's 100 people in there, all chain smoking, and there's a fog of this stuff in the air.
That would be fun.
I think they've done away with smoking in moose lodges now, but I do not miss that.
And that's something that I don't know about the rules in the UK, but in America, smoking indoors is pretty much not heard of at all anymore. And so it's shocking to me, even as recently as you're talking, they were allowing them to smoke in there. Of course, it's the Moose Lodge. They're privately run. They can kind of make their own decisions, but...
Yeah, I think the thing was it's a private members club where you pay admission. So it's fair game. You can make your own rules.
Was it this Legion, whatever you equated it to in Europe, is that the thing you said they gave away like big things of meat or something?
Yeah. Often you would just... I mean, I've seen it at British Legion clubs, and they have these working man's clubs as well. That they have around the country. They have a meat raffle. The meat raffle.
And it's just like a big hunk of meat.
Social clubs where you play a set and then you have a break in the middle. They either do bingo or a meat raffle or both. And yeah, the meat raffle, they come out with these huge bits of lamb and huge bits of beef.
So
and then they sell raffle tickets, and they're like, on the white ticket, 327, 327. Yeah! Someone will come up so excited they've got this massive shank of lamb.
So I will say, so there's also VFWs. Tim's been in plenty of VFWs, I'm sure.
Yes,
so
I've played VFWs.
Our veterans of foreign wars, so anybody who's a veteran in America can join these. They're VFWs, and they're kind of like moose lodges, only for veterans, if I'm being honest with you.
Well, the British Legion clubs started out as somewhere that veterans would go, but I think the membership has opened up to folks who are not veterans.
So both my parents are veterans, and my dad and my mother are both members of a VFW in Independence, Virginia. I don't know if you've been to that one, Tim, but they do the bingo. They have the bingo machine. And I went and played bingo, and it was actually really fun. Judge me all you want, but the bingo is fun. Oh, Lord. I hadn't thought about that in a while. But yeah, when you were talking, I was like, are those the people with the big hunks of meat?
Yes. I was trying to think. It was... Where was it? It was the Bagster House Social Club. I sat in with a friend of mine called Andy Peters, who used to have a band that played a lot of these social clubs. And we had a break in the middle, and they did the bingo, and they had a meat raffle.
That's crazy. I just see them carrying a whole lamb. Here you go.
There you go.
How are they going to refrigerate it for the rest of the night?
I don't know how that works.
Are they salt cured so they can just hang it up on a nail?
I don't know the logistics of the meat raffle, but I know it's a thing.
So here's the thing about it's not even so much that it's meat, that the way you described it to me, I just imagine someone getting a whole cow, and now they're gonna have to sit there and hold the whole cow all night while they're trying to play bingo. And it seems like when someone gives you something that's inconvenient, a big giant hunk of meat would be the most inconvenient prize.
I don't know if any of our fans or followers would like to post to our Facebook page and give us a rundown of the logistics of the post gifting of the meat raffle. All of us would be very interested to know what happens to the meat after you receive it from the raffle.
Do you have to go home at that point? You go put it in your car and drive home? Because if it's that important for you to win this amount of meat, I imagine you don't want it to go. But it doesn't matter anyway. Next song.
Well, I think it's yours, and I think it's probably your. Is it your last pick?
Yeah, I think it's my last pick.
What
Okay.
have you got?
It's Enrique Iglesias featuring Pitbull. I love it. This is the name of the song. Tim probably has no clue what that is.
No, I know more about meat raffles than I know about any of those people.
Well, it's a modern day pop song, and it probably sounds exactly like you think it does. Pitbull and both Enrique Iglesias randomly speaking Spanish words, and it's loud, and it's bumping, and they yell at you a lot. And yeah, that's pretty much it. But I like that song.
And as we said, Joy, if you like it, that's all that's important.
I have a theory about Pitbull, okay? My theory is, regardless of how you think of him as a person or a musician or whatever, the man does something very well. If he puts his name in it, it makes money. He can say 2 words in a song. Half the time he goes, "Hi, I'm Pitbull," in the song, in a cooler way than that. And somehow the song becomes popular. It's if he puts his stamp on it, people out there generate towards it. So say what you want about him. He does know how to make a hit. I don't know why.
Well, I've played on some great recordings. Can we remix them and stick 2 seconds of Pitbull in there?
Yes, and
would
then
that work?
you'll be going
know.
and playing at those big arena tours instead of the Moose Lodge.
Well, there you go, see. in the Moose Lodge, caked in cigarette smoke, dodging a meat raffle or whatever it is, while the bingo's going on. Yeah, do you think Pitbull would come out to the Moose Lodge while the bingo's going on?
I think his buy-in price might be a little too high for us, Tim. I could be wrong, but I think it's a little higher up there.
He's not going to pay for $500 in Dublin or anything, no?
No. And then Enrique Iglesias. I'm assuming you've at least heard of Enrique Iglesias.
Yeah, he's Julio Iglesias' son.
Yes, and he used to be married to J-Lo at one point. They had 2 kids. He did the song "Hero." The "I Can Be Your Hero," babe.
I'm familiar with that song.
I absolutely hate that song because my husband, for whatever reason, is addicted to really dramatic songs. I don't know why. And randomly he will turn that song on and I'm like, oh my God. But yes, that's the song. That's Enrique Iglesias.
Marvelous.
All right, Tim, what's yours?
Well, I tell you what, we will wrap up because this is my last song, and it's the Allman Brothers, and it's "Trouble No More."
Oh, I love that song. That's a good one to live it on.
Yeah, I think the Allman Brothers. I had a very good friend who we sadly lost not that long ago, who was huge into the Allman Brothers, and I had a little bit of knowledge of the Allman Brothers. I knew some of their songs. But in the years that have gone by, I've listened to a lot more Allman Brothers, and it's such good music. Though I will say, I like the studio recordings of the Allman Brothers. I think there's some great songs. I like the voices on the tracks. I like the percussion, especially the guitar playing, Duane Allman, and even the guitar players they had later on, even after Dickie Betts has left. It's all good music. If you hear there's a whole big bootleg community with the Allman Brothers where people would tape their shows and trade. I mean, the Allman Brothers are not a band anymore, but when they were out there gigging, people used to tape the shows and they used to trade the tapes, and it was a whole thing. And my dear friend who I said we lost, he was into that scene, and you would listen to those recordings, those bootleg recordings, and it's like, I liked this song when it was 6 minutes long on the album. I don't know if I'm into the 22-minute live exploration jam version of it.
I can see that. And then didn't Greg Allman just died a few years back, right?
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
Maybe like 2017, 2018. I remember when he passed, I was sad. I mean, I like the Allman Brothers. I don't know, and that's probably one that I would listen to more than what you're saying, Tim. I probably listen to it more than just like their greatest hits. But yeah, I definitely think that's a good song to end it on.
Well, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That was the that was the Shuffle the Songs episode. And
Joy had Paris Hilton, Glee, and Boom Boom Boom, I Want You in My Room, all in one list.
There you go. And I had Whiskey River from the Pulaski Moose Lodge. Who would have thought it?
Yay!
Well, fantastic. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for listening to our podcast. We post new episodes every Wednesday, available on Stitcher and Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all good places like that. And as I said, we do have the Facebook page now, facebook.com, No Name Musiccast. And we will join you and speak to you all via the gift of this medium next week.
Bye.
See ya.